Alright, so we're giving this a couple of hours to dry. So it should be safe enough to get it out of the clamps. Alright. Here we go again. Had a big frost this morning and the fog's just about lifting, and we've got a smoky old fire outside that's not really making a good attempt, but anyway, at least we've got a bit of sunshine for our solar panels, which is always a good thing. Now our grate, I took it to work and I stuck it on the thicknesser, brought it all down so it's all level, and gave it a bit of a sand. The holes have ended up a little bit larger than what I would have liked, but with the timber that I had, without ripping it down and making it narrower, if I had moved these along and put one more stick in, the holes would have been too small. The same as if I pushed this down and stuck 2 sticks in, they'd end up too small for the airflow that I want. So this is what we're going to end up with. Eventually, thoughts are at the moment is to put a mesh on the bottom of here, so that when this is on the floor, any dust and dirt will collect in there and I can pull this out and empty it, so that I don't end up with dirt and stuff getting into the bilge. Now that we've got this at its final shape, we can look at cutting a hole in the sole plate in order to push this in. As far as depth goes, it's a little bit below the level, which is okay, but what I might do is I've got to put a backing plate or a ledge under there to hold this on, and I can boost it up so that it'll be flush. That's the sort of the plan. Whether it works or not, we don't know, but you've got to at least start with a plan and some eyes. Still a little bit chilly. The sun is breaking through now, so it will warm up. How cold is it in the container? Oh, it's quite warm, 2.6. Okay, so we've got our line along here. You can see there's a little bit of a warp there, but I'll be able to buzz down one corner. Unless it's the whole plate that's moved, we'll see. So that'll be about that. So what we want now is a scribe. Don't know if you can see that. glue down. So that fits in there. A little bit tight, and I think given that there'll be heat and shrinkage in the boat depending on the humidity levels, we'll probably give this a bit more of a sand to clean up a bit. Essentially the hole's the right size. Okay. It's better. Alright. So the plate will still get the sand just to tidy it up. The grate now needs just a bit of filler to make it look a bit prettier, and an oil, and then that'll be, I know we've got to put some fly screen on the back, so I'll have to get some of that at some stage. Essentially that's good. Now what about height wise? So to have the plate flush where I'm going to be walking on it, means I want a bit of wood like this, and it'll go up into there, but that'll rebate up a little bit. Okay, so this is what we've ended up with. That's our grate. I think the holes are a little bit big, but that was the only size of the timber I had at the time, and I don't have a saw to rip it down, and I didn't use the one at work, so I may remake it later on. But the whole idea of this was partly for the ventilation, but also just to play around with making a grate. So we could call this Mark 1, and I may remake it at a later date, but it's only taken 8 years to make this one, so we don't like to hurry with such things. So where's it going? It's going down into here, It's the sole plate just in front of the motor. We've got our, if you can see down there, big bilge pump there, and we've got another little one down there. But and those pipes are for the galley pump. So we've got tanks left and right, or port and starboard, and need to get a vacuum down into there. But being off grid as we are, we don't actually have a vacuum, so we've got to brush things out every now and again. But anyway, so the only additions I'm going to do to this one, which could transfer into the next one if I remake, is underneath this is to put some fly mesh, something like that, so that any dust and stuff will fall under here rather than right down into the bilge. But for now, that'll do. That's quite a heavy lump of wood, this. It's probably about 2 kilograms. Good old spotted gum. I didn't film making this part because I did that at work, and we're not filming at work. But just using a bit more scrap that that we had lying around, made up 2 parts. So that way we end up with this little step that brings the grate up to the right height. So that's being glued and screwed, and that won't go nowhere. So we should see if it, as he tries to hold the spotlight and thing, he goes down into there like that. Oh yeah, you're still going. The screen on this GoPro goes off after a while, and voila. So that's that on there. Now we can stand on that without falling down the hole. Again, once there's fly screen or mesh underneath that, that'll stop stuff getting in there. But I quite like to have a bit of a look into the bilge when I'm sailing. You can get water monitors or bilge alarms and all of that sort of stuff, but I always find with electronics that they can decide not to work at inopportune moments. And the best way to make sure things go as they should do is to use your eyes and watch it. So at least coming down here while I'm sailing, I can quickly check underneath, make sure everybody's happy, and off we go again. I've been sitting on the boat looking at the grid in place for a little while now, and I'm thinking the holes are a little bit big, so I've got myself a little bit more timber here, and I think the idea is going to be to cut it in half and do a line down here, trying to do it all one-handed, and just slot that in, which will just break up those holes a little bit and less likely to get your toes stuck down them. So that's the next phase in this little project. So when I go into work today, I'll take these battens in and sand them down so they're nice and smooth, and then I can mark the lines to where I'll sit this down into the grate. Well, another day. Made a few more modifications at work. Like I said before, I cut some little battens down and recessed them, which has made these holes a bit smaller, which I think works quite well. I just glued them in with just some liquid nails. And so all we've got to do now is give it a clean up, get some of this dust off, and give it an oil, and that'll be that job done.